I'll tell you how I met my wife. Does anybody here not know how I met my wife? There are many things I wanted to accomplish in my life, but the one thing I have not been able to accomplish until this very day is to have my wife stand up and say what she would like to say, because she's never done it before. So this is a very special day, and I now give my beautiful wife.
All right.
60 years of marriage. It went by so fast. People ask, what made it last? To answer this question that you ask, here are the 5 C's that made it last. 1. Common interests and goals. Commitment to the large C, commitment. 3. Consideration. 4. Courtesy. Courtesy to one another. And 5. Conversation. Interaction. When I was young, I dreamed of ever after, marriage, family, love, and laughter. For 60 years, this dream came true.
Can you tell us how you met each other?
Well, I can say that I met her not by accident. It was a part of a planned party for the young student nurses from Plattsburgh College. It was their sort of a welcoming party.
We were the first class to come to New York from Plattsburgh to do our practical nursing at Metropolitan Hospital.
So you spent 2 years in Plattsburgh and then 2 years in the...
First and last year were at Plattsburgh, and the middle 2 years were in the city.
Well, I worked in that hospital for the Department of Hospitals as a messenger. My job was to handle narcotics and payrolls, money of that sort. But as a bonded messenger, I really did very little other than mingle with the patients and the students eventually too, the student nurses. In my case, I had already finished college the year that, actually the summer that I met Judy. And the nice thing about it was that the head nurse, who I had worked for 3 years, asked if I knew some nice young men who would come and act as chaperones for a barbecue type of thing with music and dancing and so forth. And did I know some nice boys?
Yeah.
And I said, well, of course all I know is nice boys. and I made a phone call. 2 phone calls got us about 20 nice boys.
Oh, nice. So 20 nice boys for 30 nice nurses.
Yeah.
So you went on dates?
Not right away.
No, that's
Not
right.
right away. The messengers had lunch at the Central Nurses Residence, so I saw Dad, Frank, every noon, you know, and I didn't really talk to him. I was just observing him while he was having lunch.
So you're like the Jane Goodall of the...
In fact, the Dad was sitting outside with a book, like after he had lunch, he was sitting outside on a bench reading a book, you know, and I liked that. So I could look down from my room up on the 3rd story at Central Nurses Residence and watch Dad read a book on the bench.
I felt her eyes upon me. Actually, I didn't, but I liked the idea that she was somebody a little different from the run-of-the-mill girls. And the first thing that attracted me was something that sounded like an accent, but it wasn't. And it made me want to get to know her better.
So, were you the only immigrant in the program?
Yes.
Yeah, so you had the choice of...
Yeah,
Yeah.
Eventually, did you go on dates?
we did, yeah.
Yeah, eventually I went and I sat next to Dad and we started talking, and then Dad asked me for a date.
What kind of a date?
We went to
Went to the cloisters.
the cloisters, yeah. Overlooking the Hudson River. And the nice thing about it is that it was so different and new and free.
Right. Oh, that's nice. That's a good date.
But it was a worthwhile date, you know, and I think we both, at least I know, I enjoyed it for the first time.
Oh.
And I was hoping that, you know,
It was like bringing her to Europe.
no, in a sense, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then from then, did you like dancing or movies or ball games or what kind of
Next date was a movie at Rockefeller Center.
Oh,
Yeah.
And they still had a show at Rockefeller Center and a movie.
do you remember what the movie was?
So Friendly Persuasion.
Oh.
Friendly persuasion, that's right, that was the
So during your courtship, you were in the Air Force.
that's right.
So that interrupted the courtship to some degree.
It, in a way, it did, but for the most part, it actually it made it possible for each of us to put in writing what we were doing, and that led to what we were anticipating to do with what we were doing, and then talking about, well, we're reaching the end of the point where I'll be a flyer, she'll be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, we started talking about each other's, you know, individual likes and dislikes. We never talked about desires, did we? I mean,
No, we didn't talk about our feelings in the letters. I mean, that
Yeah.
was like personal, so we talked about that in conversation,
yeah.
but not in our letters, not in writing.
Yeah, I would also talk about the places I'd been, and also the, you know, there's some very poetic and romantic things when I was thinking celestial navigation. You know, the different stars that you could talk about. Yeah.
So do you have particular letters that you?
Yeah, that one letter when I became a citizen and I was all by myself, and then that you should get the answer because that made me feel so good. So it was all a matter of fact. It was a big deal to get a day off to go down to get my citizenship. So I
Yeah.
wrote to Dad about that, and Dad wrote back and said, "Oh, that's the nicest thing that ever happened to the United States."
Oh.
So I said, "Congratulate me, I'm a USA citizen. It happened Monday inside a very impressive courtroom with oak panels. I arrived on time, but all the other people arrived early, so I got a comfortable seat right in the front of the room. It was an impressive ceremony. There were 125 of us. We were given a nice little talk by the judge, who was on first appearance seemed very cold, but turned out to be quite nice. Then we had to swear allegiance to the USA and renounce other powers. After I got back and told all the other girls, they got almost as excited as I was. I got to toasted with V8 juices and congratulated. It was wonderful."
What was the date?
This was May 24th, 1956.
And this is 23rd of May, 1956.
So you did not know at the time.
Yeah,
That
I didn't, it has to be the next one that I must have said what I said.
Ah.
Yeah. And this is a long one too, because it was my first flight over water.
Oh. Play Newlyweds Game. What would your spouse say is your greatest contribution to the marriage?
To the greatest contribution to the marriage, as far as I was concerned,
Yeah.
my wife.
No, but what is your wife's greatest contribution to the marriage? That's the question.
But it was her. Her
Well,
personality.
what did I contribute to the marriage? I mean, you know what I contributed to the marriage.
So besides 4 kids?
Yes, 4 kids. That's my greatest contribution to the marriage.
No, I think it was something greater than that, honey. I mean, I felt, in a sense, a little bit more liberated than I noticed my father and other people had with their marriages. Liberated in the sense that I knew that my wife was not in competition with me. What she was more concerned about was me as a person and the relationships I had with the children and with her. And that to me was something that was really unique that I didn't see in a lot of other people. Especially in the area of education, where it seemed everybody, every couple was in competition with one another.
I'm going to ask the same question in reverse. What would you say that your spouse's greatest contribution to the marriage is?
My spouse?
Yes. Him.
That's me.
Well, he provided financial security, and he was like the bedrock of the marriage by providing security and a way of living that we could accept, you know, that we were happy with, you know. So he was the worker and the provider and sort of the father figure to all of you kids, you know. So, you know, it was very important.
I could have asked the same question of my kids.
Huh. Yes, you could.
You know,
So how did you see your father in the marriage?
It's interesting because I think that my template of how to proceed in the world comes from my father, and my template of how to proceed in my personal life comes from my mother. So
It's a good thing.
but I think that that's, you know, we got both. One thing that you guys had in common, and you know, looking at the pictures of your wedding through those years, do you think that Catholicism played a role, first of all, in your courtship, and then in being able to remain in this marriage for all that time?
the importance to me was that I was going to marry somebody who was better versed in being a Catholic than I was, and that you know, as far as my children were concerned, as far as my parents were concerned, this was a perfect fit.
I would have married Dad even if he would have been Protestant. That was it. But my own personal relationship wasn't even Catholic. It was with God, because it was so important. For instance, England was horrible. I mean, just think, you were torn away from mother, father, you were stuck in with a different family, and you're stuck into school, you didn't really know the language. So that's when I sort of prayed a lot and depended on God. You know, I mean, it was, looking back, it was a pretty hard thing, you know, to...
But think it,
You know, to be
it worked
separated
out
from
wonderfully. You
them.
married me. I'm grateful for the fact that I have 4 fabulous kids,
That's right, family support. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
important. It's so
and
important.
it was so smart of me to say to you, to your mother, you take care of the house, because that included the kids,
Yeah.
and I'll take care of the more prosaic stuff. That was the most important thing I think that I got out of all of this. And at this point, when the time comes, it comes.
You know, see, that's where your religion or relationship with God
Yeah.
comes in. You know, you just sort of do your best and leave it up to God. You know, that's
well,
the main thing.
Especially when you're flying over water and you can't
Yeah.
swim.
Yeah.